Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. You know who I am already. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a women's body image and mindset coach. Today, not only me, who's going to be blowing your mind, but I have Grace, who's the founder of Teen Stronger, who is going to be joining me on a conversation of how to help you ladies and men, if we have gentlemen listening to our podcast, empowering you to lift heavier and also to confidently take up space. And I know this is something that many people struggle with, taking up space, speaking up their mind. So what a better way to open this conversation with Grace with me today. And I would love to open this conversation with you, Grace, and ask you, what does taking up space mean to you?
Oh my goodness. Hi, I am so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be speaking to such a topic that is really, really close to my heart, because it's something that a lot of my clients struggle with, and it's something that I've had to overcome a lot of, and sometimes it still comes up for me to this day. But taking up space has been honestly one of the biggest challenges that I have had to overcome when it comes to being in the gym. And that's being in the gym as just a member, someone who's training, but also being in the gym as a coach. And taking up space for me looks like walking into the gym with my head held high, going to set up for my workout, knowing exactly what I'm doing, and also just being able to exist in a space where I may seem like an outlier in comparison to the other people there, but not caring. And also knowing that I pay the same gym membership, I have the exact same ability to utilize all of the equipment, and I'm actually allowed to take up space equally as much as anyone else in that building, regardless of if it's, a massive muscle head or, any of the gym junkies or the gym bros. I am allowed to take up equally as much space there as anyone else. And having that realization, but then also truly embodying that realization, has been one of the most powerful things that has ever happened in my journey.
Now, let's go back to prior to this point. Like, what was life before having this confidence to take up space?
I remember I first started my fitness journey a little over 2 years ago now, and I started off doing this 30-day challenge, as most of us do, and it was something along the lines of, here's six habits, and you have to do these 6 habits every day for 30 days. And for the first 10 days, I was like, one of the pillars was working out, and I was like, I don't have to go to the gym to do that. That's fine. I don't want to go to the gym. So I was like, I'll go for a walk, I'll go for a run, I'll go for a swim. And then I was just like, okay, I'm getting bored. Maybe I need to go to the gym. And I, got my gym membership and did all of the things. And then suddenly I was just this little hermit. I was like, I'm going on the treadmill in the very back corner where no one can see me, or I'm going to go on the bike, or I'm going to stretch in the functional space, and I am not going to venture out into any of the weight area, because that's scary and I don't look like I belong there. So why on earth would anyone respect me in that space? And it took me 6 months of having a gym membership and consistently going to the gym before I even touched the weights. And I remember the first time I walked over to the weights area, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I picked up some dumbbells, and in hindsight, I think I was trying to do lateral raises, but they weren't lateral raises. They were anything but that. And I picked them up, and then I sort of held them up in the air, and I did a full scan of the gym, and I saw just one person looking in my vague direction. I put the weights down and I walked out. And I was petrified. I was like, I do not belong here. And even reflecting back on that now, I just want to give Grace the biggest hug ever, because if I think about that moment again, he wasn't looking at me. He was looking in my general direction, which was a very large space. And I was just so scared of what other people thought about me being in the weight section that I didn't even think about what I thought about me being in the weight section. Yeah, a lot has changed since then, but it was definitely one of those moments I think I'll remember forever.
I think we all had gone through those moments because there were times where when I first started my journey of, lifting weights, I used to fear the weights area so much. There would be like this enormous men and they're like lifting heavy weights, and there were barely any women there. And I remember I'd be doing my running on the treadmill and there would be like a lat pull down right next door. I'd be like, cool, all right, maybe I'll just go do like 5 reps, see if that's okay. And then I'll go back onto the treadmill. And I swear I did that for like a good few months. And then after a while, you get more comfortable by being in that space, knowing that, hey, you're actually welcome there. It's not just for men in particular. But I can so relate to the fact of you thinking people are looking at you. And I know it comes down to a lack of confidence. And I know you can relate to this as well, because like you said, the gentleman wasn't necessarily looking at you, it was just slightly in your direction. But the thoughts and the stories that put in our head were like, oh yeah, well, I'm not good enough to be here, so I should just, leave this space and let them be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, a few things to riff on from that. When it comes to, I feel like a lot of women are so intimidated by the big muscle heads at the gym. They're like, they're scary. Look at him. He's benching 250 kilos and I can't even do the bar. Like it's almost like a bias or a stigma in our heads that these muscle heads are so scary. But I coach out of a warehouse gym. So it's pretty intense. And honest, like hand to heart, those people that you perceive or that we perceive as the big muscle heads and they're scary are some of the nicest people I have ever interacted with. Like they are so beautiful and so supportive. And it's at the point where even a few of them, I will send them a cheeky message and be like, hey, I've got a new client starting today. Do you want to just come past and give her a wave and be like, make sure that my clients know that these guys are not to be feared because they're not scary at all. It's hard as hell workers. So that's one of the biggest, that's a really big realization that I've had. And then along that, I think a lot of gym anxiety or a lot of fear when it comes to being in the weight section is not actually about other people at all. It is the biggest projection that we are pushing onto all of these other people who are taking up space. And we're like, oh, they're judging me, or, all of these things. And it's really funny that we can take something as simple as a look in our general direction and let it completely crush us, and make it all about ourselves. Like realistically, no one is actually looking at you in the gym. And that has been a pretty massive realization for me to have. But, no one's looking at you. No one actually cares and no one is judging you. And if you think any differently to that, it's a sign that it's stuff that you need to work on yourself. And it's a sign that you need to be building up your confidence, because it's actually not anything about other people and it's all about you. And when I get new clients starting in the gym, it's the top thing that they'll say to me. They'll say, I'm scared that everyone's going to look at me. And I'll actually get them to take a step back from wherever they are. And, I'll stand next to them and I'll be like, all right, let's actually look around the gym right now. Like, let's look at every single person in here. And you'll find when you actually get out of your head and you get into the real world and you look around, no one is looking at you. And they can fall into, one of three categories or even more, but, they're either very, very deep in doing their own exercise, or they are, changing the music on their phone or putting their sets into their phone, or, re-racking their weights, or they're staring off into the distance, like, trying to pull pain from their heartbreak from 6 years ago to motivate their next set. Like no one is actually looking at you. And once you get out of your head and stop thinking that everyone's looking at you and you look around and realize no one is when all of my girls make that connection. They're like, whoa, this is actually really okay right now. Like no one is looking at me. And that's, it's the biggest game changer, honestly, to actually just take a moment, bring your feet back to the ground, come back down to earth, and actually take in your surroundings and realize no one cares. No one cares at all. And that can either be really empowering or really disempowering, and you get to choose which one that is.
The amount of times that I stare into the distance and I end up catching eyes with just a random person, and I realize I've been staring at them for a good 30 seconds and they're staring back at me, and we just have a good laugh about it, because realistically, I don't care what they're doing. I was just literally in my own mind in between sets. So it literally just made me giggle when you said that.
Honestly, and most people, no, all people don't go to the gym to judge other people that are there. Like if I'm looking off into the distance or in your general direction, it's because I'm thinking like, oh, did I take the chicken out of the freezer to have for dinner tonight? Or, oh, I've got to do this, and that when I get home. Or like, everyone is just so in their own heads about their lives when they're at the gym that no one actually goes there to judge you.
100%. And you know what, like one of the big lessons that I learned at the early years of starting at the gym is everyone is there to better themselves. They're not there to judge one another. And I love that because I remember years ago, I was so, self-conscious about the way I performed or the way I looked. I was constantly projecting my own fears onto everyone else, not realizing that everyone has their own fears when they step into the gym. Like you are the most vulnerable stage when you're training because you're thinking, oh, am I performing this correctly? Someone's going to judge me. Are they going to pull me out? Like you just don't know. But then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, everyone here is for the one reason, to better their health or to better the sake of their mental health, physical, whatever it is. So I think it's such a good way to look at it. And if anyone's struggling with that, is having that in the back of your head going, oh, well, if Joe is over there on the lat pull down, I know he's training because he wants to feel better. Where years ago, I used to train because it was purely just for aesthetics. Now it's just for the enjoyment of it, of me actually stepping away from work, getting a clear conscious of doing something completely different to better myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the really big things as well, is that everyone is there to better themselves. And at the same time, everyone there who you're feeling intimidated by because they're, lifting a lot of weight or they look really good or, they have an incredible physique, they had to start exactly where you're starting. They had to start from the bottom and work their way up. So every single person in the gym has been where you are. And I feel like they can all empathize with the fact that you are feeling nervous, and that's totally okay. But everyone has been there. And if you can see, the big muscle heads feeling confident as hell in the gym and know that they have been where you've been, it's almost like a firecracker up the arse to be like, okay, if they can do it, so can I. Like, I can get there as well.
100%. And it's something that people need to be open-minded about, but especially with bodybuilders. Like they have gone through enormous change. I love listening and sitting down with a bodybuilder, whether it's a male or female, just knowing the back end story is just amazing. And you know what? I give full credit as an ex-bodybuilder. I give credit to a lot of bodybuilders because they have the best work ethic when it comes to training. They're very disciplined. Yeah. And some people think it's obsessive, but some people look at it in again, there's two lenses that you can look at it. You go, oh, bodybuilders are obsessed about their physique. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know what? We've come across a lot of people that have done it for the wrong reasons. However, majority of them are doing it because they are so into bettering themselves. They have that discipline of going in, doing the work, getting it done no matter what. And I absolutely admire that about them.
Oh, absolutely. And I have a lot of close friends who are bodybuilders, and they are honest to God, the most disciplined people I have ever met. Like one of my close mates, she's up at like 3:30 in the morning and she's getting all of the things done and she's building her own business and then she's working for another business and she's still ticking the boxes for, her prep. And it actually blows my mind because, she is just a normal person and she can do all of the things. And I think that bodybuilding gets a bad rap, and I definitely held a few different, perceptions about it. But at the end of the day, everyone's definition of self-improvement is going to look radically different. And for them, it looks like stepping on the stage, getting that done, then walking away and being like, okay, cool, I want to improve myself. So next time I step on the stage, I look this much, different in this sense. And then they take that and they put in the work. And that's no different to you being like, I want to hit an 80 kilo squat. So you go in and you put in the work. Or I want to lose this amount of weight. So you go in and you put in the work so you can achieve that. I feel like it gets a bad rap because people they're doing it for the wrong reasons, or, it's obsessive or it's too much. But is it too much, or are they just at a whole new level of discipline that you can't comprehend yet?
And you know what? You just brought up a really good point. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday or the day before. And No, it's not just bodybuilders, it's us as coaches. Why did we get into the health and fitness industry from the get-go? It was from insecurity. It was from us not feeling good about ourselves. And we went on that journey to better ourselves and we fell in love with it, where now we are coaches and we're helping people who are insecure about themselves or are self-conscious or have anxiety around the gym. So it just shows you there's like this massive 360 going, well, we can't judge others for what they're doing because they've been in a position where we were once.
Exactly. And it's like they're doing the exact same thing as us. It's just like it's in a different font. Like it's literally the exact same thing. It's just constant self-improvement. And you're exactly right. I came into the industry or, into the health and fitness space from such a massive place of insecurity. Like the person that I was a little bit over 2 years ago, unrecognizable, honestly. Like she was so overweight. I was sitting at like 170 kilos. I was not moving. I was so just mentally unhappy. And I know full well that it didn't come from a place, me stepping into the gym or me doing this 30-day challenge didn't come from a place of wanting to better myself, if this makes sense. It came from a place of, I hate this about myself and it needs to change. And I had a mentor give me this analogy and it absolutely changed my life. It was, Grace, imagine you're walking down the street and you see a car accident happen right in front of you. And there's 3 people in this car accident. The first one is someone you love dearly with your whole heart, like your mum, dad, brother, sister, partner, whatever. It's someone that you love with every part of your being. The second person is someone who you don't know, just a complete stranger. And the third person is someone you hate with every fiber of your being. Who would you go and help first? Who would you feel more inclined to save? The answer is obviously going to be someone that you love. And that translates into your journey. If you are coming at it from a place of hatred towards yourself and not wanting to do it for the right reasons, you hate yourself, so you have to fix all of the things. It's so much harder to help someone that you don't like than it is to help someone that you love. And when I shifted my focus from, I need to change this about myself because I don't like that, and coming from a place of, I actually deserve better, I deserve to look after myself better, I love my body and it needs to be treated accordingly, the game changed, honestly. And I felt that all of the resistance that I had towards, stuff like going to the gym or eating healthy or all of the things started to slowly fall away, because it was like, wait, I actually really love myself and I actually really want to, I want to be able to support myself and look after myself. And it's so much easier to go on this journey from a place of love than it is from a place of hate or dislike.
100%. And you know what? Usually those who, and the thing is, like, I've been there and you have as well, when before we had that mindset shift of, us hating ourselves and needing the change. And we know every time there's resistance, it's always going to persist, no matter what it is, because you're literally just crushing your head against a fucking wall. So it's just like, if this is not working and you've been trying it, a dozen of times, it's like, well, we're going to have to look at a different way to how to achieve our goals. So I love the fact that you mentioned that you have to love your way, even though you're not 100% convinced that you love yourself as much as you want to. By having that mindset shift, you're going to just you're just going to achieve so much better.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, when it comes to this journey, the easy stuff is going to the gym, doing the reps, doing the steps, eating right. Like that is the easiest part of this journey. The hardest part is the mindset. And I say that, because literally I spent a good 6 to 8 months of my fitness journey with just the worst mindset ever. Like, I was like, I have to go to the gym. I have to go and do this. I held so much resistance towards all of the things that I was doing. And I found that I kept slipping into this hole of self-sabotage where it's like, oh, okay, cool. I missed one day of the gym. Fuck it. Why bother? And at the end of the day, you can go and do all of the things. You can go to the gym and you can do the reps. You can go outside and go for a walk. You can eat, all of the things you're supposed to eat. But if your brain isn't open to receiving that goodness, then what is the point? Because it's so much harder to hit the results that you want to hit, but also be able to celebrate those milestones when it's coming from a place of, I had to do this. Like, this is a chore for me. versus I actually get to do this. Like, this is exciting. I get to go to the gym. I get to look after my body. I get to extend my lifespan. I get to be happier. I get to be healthier. All areas of my life are going to improve because I'm taking care of myself. Like, it's the mindset that plays the biggest game in this journey.
What do you think was like the main shift for you and your mindset, during those 6 to 8 months?
Honestly, I have had so many just insane mindset shifts in the past couple of years, but the biggest one was really realizing that I'm not doing it for anyone else. And when I first started, it was, it's actually kind of sad thinking about it. I was doing it because of this boy. And that's a whole thing. But, it changed from, I'm not doing this for that boy, or I'm not doing this for, my parents to give me validation, or I'm not doing it to finally fit in and not be, the fat, funny friend. I was doing it because I actually really loved how I felt when I was looking after myself. And, from someone who came from a place of such, poor mental health, I had 3 suicide attempts in the span of 4 years. I was in and out of school, I was just the most unhappy person, and realizing, hey, I actually don't feel like that anymore. And it's because I'm doing all of these things, maybe actually hold so much more appreciation for all of the things. I was going to the gym and boom, my body was producing more fucking endorphins than I could keep up with. I was sleeping better, I was eating better, I had like more desire and more light inside of me. And realizing that shift, I had done that all by myself, was the most powerful thing ever. And I was obsessed with how I felt. So why on earth would I want to give that up? And I didn't care if, I had to let go of people, or if other people didn't agree with the moves that I was making, because I loved how I felt and I was doing it for me and I wasn't doing it for anyone else. And I had that shift probably start of last year, maybe. Yeah. And everything changed.
It's so wonderful to look back and reflect of like how far we've come. And I know I can relate to the whole suicide side of things, of like feeling like absolute miserable, like feeling the world is against you. And at the time of uncertainty, we can't get ourselves out of that mindset because we're so like deep in that rabbit hole, and it just goes in circles and you're just literally steering in your own fucking shit. But then one day we just do one thing, and then it puts sort of more of a wider perspective to us, going, oh, okay, well, I'm able to do that one thing. Let's see how it can go with the other thing. And then eventually it just becomes this snowball effect of us, as you said, like going to the gym and like feeling all these endorphins where previously you didn't feel that. It's just like, oh, we're proving to our brain that it is possible to change. And that's the beauty of,
Absolutely.
of the brain.
Absolutely. And I remember one of my suicide attempts, that we might need to put a trigger warning on this, but I'm not actually going to talk about the whole thing anyway. I was 18 and I had just been in a really bad car accident, and my parents were overseas, and the thought of coming clean to them and being like, guys, like, I've been in a car accident, it was my fault, I was going the wrong way down a one-way street, like, I was just debilitated. I was like, I can't do this. I cannot tell this to my parents. I have fucked up so bad. Nothing is going to get better from here. Like, literally, there is no way that I can fix this. And reflecting back on that now, while I wish younger Grace did not have to go through all of the things that she went through, it also completely changed how I perceive things now. Like, the amount of challenges that life has presented me with over the past 2 years that would have completely torn apart any regular human, I've been able to look at them and be like, okay, well, I've gotten through this and I didn't think that I could. I got through all of those things a couple of years ago that I didn't think that I could. And now here I am staring something in the eye that would tear apart a lot of normal humans. And I'm like, okay, cool. I could, like, we'll make this work, And I think that, another thing that you spoke to about, yeah, like, a lot of our journeys do stem from a place of insecurity, and what you spoke about just brought this up for me. But I remember when I first started my health and fitness journey, it was, I want to prove this person wrong who was there for one of my suicide attempts and was genuinely convinced that I was a goner, or, I want to prove all of those people in high school wrong who relentlessly bullied me. Like there was a point in time where the popular boys in high school made this, like my surname is Macleod, and there are a lot of adaptations that can be made from Macleod or Mac, especially McDonald's. And there was this little, like, not trend, but like this meme going around where they'd Photoshop my face onto like all of these McDonald's ads, and they thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I thought like my life is falling apart. But it got to a point during my journey where I was like, I've got to prove them wrong. I've got to prove all of these people wrong, that I can't do it. And then this little voice inside of my head said to me, Grace, what if you're not trying to prove them wrong? What if you're trying to prove yourself wrong? And it was because, I had picked up all of these opinions and these perspectives and, what everyone else thought of me. And I let that craft the person that I thought that I was. So if everyone around me was calling me, overweight and a loser and, not going to achieve anything and, just, a lost cause, if everyone around me was saying that, I took that on board and I let that, paint a picture as to who I thought I was as a person, until it got to the point where I was no longer me. I was literally just a collection of everyone else's opinions about me. And only once I realized a lot of this resistance towards actually taking care of myself came from the fact that it was going against what I thought to be true about my identity. And it made me question, am I trying to prove everyone else wrong? Am I trying to prove myself wrong right now? Like, am I trying to prove to myself that I am not what all of these people used to say about me, that I've started to believe about myself? And, it completely changed who I identified as a human, because it challenged me to actually come up with who am I without the perspective of what other people think about me. And that's when I finally started to settle into, my human and who I actually am, and, what my personality is and what I think to be true about myself. And when I decided that what I thought to be true about me and what I thought I was capable of was radically different to what everyone else thought about me, boom, I went for the stars and I did not come down. And I think that that's so important to acknowledge what parts of yourself are actually you and what parts of yourself are what everyone else has said about you. A side note, I've done a full fucking 360 to get to this point, but this is a good riff. But so many people, there's this really powerful book. It's called The Four Agreements by Don Ruiz. Have you read that?
Yeah, great book.
All time favorite. But in this very first chapter, he speaks to a mum comes home from work and she has had a really bad day and she's just not feeling great and she's got a headache. And then her daughter is in a great mood and she's walking around the house and she's singing and she's having a great time, no care in the world. And the mum goes like, shut up, you have an ugly voice, I don't want to hear you singing. And then suddenly this girl took this one thing that her mum said and took it with her entire life. She didn't sing again. She, was told that her voice was ugly, so she believed that it was ugly. And she literally picked up a projection from her mum and carried it with her entire life and let it form the person that she was. And when I reflect on, that story, I realize that, I let being overweight and being unhappy be part of my identity, to the point where anything that I did that went against that, my body was like, whoa, this isn't us. This isn't what we do. Like, we don't do this. We don't look after ourselves. We enjoy having a pity party all the time. And actually being able to acknowledge and separate, hey, this is what other people have said about me, and this is what I believe about me. It's just an absolute game changer, because suddenly I've been able to create the person that I am without the input of all of the other people around me. And it's actually crazy, because now the person that I am, I know that I trigger the shit out of people. I know that people don't agree with my opinions. I know that there's still people out there who don't think that I'm capable, but none of that matters, because I think that I'm capable. I know that I'm capable, and I've proven that to myself. So yeah, that's really powerful.
Super powerful. And I'm really glad that we opened the conversation around this, because this is something that I work really heavily with my clients when it comes to a belief system, because we know, well, I don't know if many of our listeners know, but limiting beliefs they do come from other people's opinions and projections. You're not just born and you tell yourself that you're fucking ugly or that you're not good enough or you can't lift weights. It stems from the people around us. So if we're constantly,
Exactly.
if we're constantly being bullied or emotionally abused or physically abused, whatever it is, from your experience for being, bullied at school, my experience of being bullied at school, you stem all these beliefs thinking, hey, that you're not good enough. And then you end up in this little pity party. And I used to name my ego, oh my God, Negative Nelly. She was so fucking negative to a point where I couldn't even fucking stand my own self. Where one day I was just like, this is too much. Like, I'm diving myself into like this massive black hole of just being so depressed. And, for many years I was because of that. But then eventually when you see the light outside of the tunnel going, hey, this is possible. And you start rewiring your brain and proving yourself, like you said, Grace, that you are capable of doing the shit that you want to do. It's just a whole nother level. But again, we're humans, we're not fucking robots, and we do go through moments of despair. We go through moments where your ego takes over and it questions you going, are you actually good enough? Because, last time, this year, at this time, on that date with that person, you did X, Y, and Z and you failed. It's always gonna come back to a certain point in life of an experience that you're going to start doubting yourself. But like you said, it's a matter of you proving to yourself, doing the hard shit and continuously doing it.
Exactly. And this is where it is so powerful to be able to acknowledge your limiting beliefs, but also challenge them. It's a very common quote within the industry, but you are the product of the people you spend your time with.
Yeah.
So if you're surrounded by, 5 overweight people, chances are you'll become the 6th. If you're surrounded by 5 billionaires, chances are you'll become the 6th, so on and so forth. But actually being able to identify, these are all of my limiting beliefs right here. Let me challenge them. Let me challenge them. I would say stuff to myself like, a lot of people in my family are overweight. It just means that I have to be overweight. Like, that's just a thing. Like, wait, no, actually you don't. Go and fucking challenge that, because you have the power and the ability to challenge that. Or, I always start things and never finish them. Okay, cool. Start something and actually finish it. Or I could never be a runner because I've never run my entire life, literally go out and run. Like, you have the power and the ability to take what are your limiting beliefs and make them unlimiting, actually change what you believe to be true about yourself. And that's where the hard stuff comes into place. It's a lot harder to challenge a limiting belief than it is to just let it exist. But imagine if you let that limiting belief exist for the rest of your life. What sort of person would you be in 90 years' time when you are, you've held that belief your entire life that my family's overweight, so I'm going to be overweight. Cool. 90 years' time, what sort of person are you? Are you still alive? Or, you take that limiting belief and you challenge it and you're like, okay, well, no, I actually don't have to be like everyone else in my family, so I'm going to challenge it. And then who would you be if you took that different route? And it also stems to, the people that you're around. I was so unhappy within myself. So I was around people who allowed me to actually be unhappy within myself, because they also believed that to be true about me. They also believed that I was an unhappy person. And then once I started, I remember I got really close with an old friend at the beginning of my health and fitness journey, and she had the same desire and she had the same passion as I did, and she was so ready to, tackle her goals and break down her limiting beliefs. And suddenly I had so much more fire in me because I was surrounded by someone who wanted to achieve similar things as I did. So I think that while a lot of it is internal, a lot of it can also be external, and it can also be around, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they enabling you and allowing you to be, sitting in your limiting beliefs and allowing them to be true? Or are you being around people who are challenging you to be better every single day? I know full well that I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you today if I wasn't friends with that human who challenged me to be better every single day. We're waking up at 5 a.m. together. We were reading the same book. We were making massive moves together. And I don't think I would have been able to get where I am today without that support and that human by my side who wanted the same thing as me. And, it's also really important to just look at who's around you and what are they bringing out in you.
Yeah, it's so true. There's so much comfort that comes from being around people that are familiar with your patterns. But then again, you need to recognize, are these patterns actually serving your purpose? Because at this stage of life, you really need to question yourself, are these people serving you a good purpose or not? Are they, as you mentioned, like, are they lifting you up? Are they empowering you to challenge yourself? Or are they stopping you? Or are they projecting their own fears onto you? Because it's too easy for a friend to come to you and be like, oh my God, I want to go, I don't know why I have this in my head, but bungee jumping. Or I want to go skydiving. But then your friend will be like, oh no, but you will die. So then you have their projecting of dying while you're skydiving, and the chances are very minimal. Yes, accidents do happen, unfortunately. However, the risk is so fucking small, but yet you pull yourself back from actually going skydiving or going bungee jumping, or asking someone on a date or going to the gym for the first time because that person told you, oh no, don't do that because you're going to die.
Yeah. Or not even because you're going to, but what if?
Yeah.
What if this happens? What if this negative outcome comes into play? And it's like, you know what? If you don't go skydiving, right? You decide not to go skydiving. The what if you die has equally as much chance of the what if you don't die. And you're just allowing the what if you die to hold so much more power. And I think that probably skydiving wasn't the greatest example to use, but I use this with my clients or even with myself. Like, oh, you like that guy? Ask him out. And they're like, what if he says no? What if he doesn't?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't? Humans are programmed to be so pessimistic that, we're always gonna look at the most, the worst possible outcome, the worst case scenario, that we give it so much power and we don't realize that this negative what if it doesn't work out holds equally as much possibility as it actually working out. And you not doing it is just like you're giving that what if it doesn't work out all of the power, when in reality, what if it actually does work out? And that has absolutely changed my life. Like I competed in a powerlifting competition. There are so many times where I was like, I want to pull out. What if I don't win? What if I don't do well? What if I can't get there? What if people judge me? And then I had one of my colleagues at the time say to me, what if it does work out? What if no one judges you? What if you win? What if you succeed? What if you do really well? And I'm like, I don't care about that. I care about the what if it doesn't. And he said, they have equally as much chance of happening. Boom, changed the game. Absolutely, like, pivotal moment in my life, because I ended up going to that powerlifting competition, taking away the title, smashing all of my PBs. Like, it was the most insane experience of my life. But, I still have that come up into my head every single day, like, what if it doesn't work out? What if, and what if has so much power in so many other people's lives that we don't actually realize that it actually can work out. And you're just not letting it. You're not giving it the opportunity to work out. So I think that what if is really, really powerful.
Definitely. It's changing the language around that. And like you said, like, so often we're holding ourselves back because of that negative bias. And unfortunately, that's how humans are wired. We are wired to think of the negative first before the positive. It's a survival mechanism. It's been going on since, Adam and Eve. So, like, it's just a matter of you rewiring your language around that, and then taking the chances, like you said, like telling your clients to ask people out, even though if they're going to say yes or no, like, you just don't know till you actually go for it and do it.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think a lot of the time, obviously we take on board, what other people think about us, and we allow that to be true about ourselves. But at the same time, and it's something that I don't think is spoken about enough, when you start changing what you believe to be true about yourself, when it's, a combination of everyone else's opinions, other people start to question that, or they start to feel threatened, or they start to, look at you differently, because suddenly you're not the person that they have, built up in their brain that you are. Suddenly, for me, I had a lot of friends, and I say friends with air quotes because it's very true, they were air quote friends. But once I stopped being, the friend that went out drinking on the weekends, it changed the perception that they had of me, and it challenged what they believed to be true about me. And then suddenly I was a completely different person. They didn't like that, so they retreated. Or, suddenly I wasn't really keen on talking shit about people all of the time. And, people would, like, I was around friends and they'd start talking shit about someone who was actually one of our friends. And I'd be like, hey, actually, no, like, let's not. And then suddenly I wasn't that friend who you could always talk shit about other people with. And then it changed how other people saw me, and it changed what they believed to be true about me. And then they retreated. And I think that once you start to reclaim your power and you start to rebuild what you believe to be true about yourself without the perception or the bias of other people, you are going to have to let people go. You are going to have to outgrow them. You are going to have to move past them, because everyone sees you very, very differently. The people I was friends with in high school have no idea the person that I am now. So in their brains, I am still that person that I was in high school. Yeah. Or, I went to 4 different high schools. So, the people I was friends with when I was at my in year 7 are still going to see me as that same girl I was in year 7. And, everyone is going to hold a different perception about you. And it's just being okay with the fact that, one, everyone is going to see you differently. People are still going to believe that you are the person that they last knew. And just being okay with the fact that you're going to outgrow people, especially if you are, full steam ahead on growing yourself. You're going to outgrow other people who don't want to do that, who want to stay where they are, who are comfortable where they are. And trying not to hold insecurity, or trying not to, remain the person that they believe you to be, is the biggest lesson you can learn. There were so many times where I held myself back because I was like, oh, but what if this person won't be friends with me anymore because, I'm doing this instead of that? Or, I was really scared because I had this really close friend, and I was like, oh, wait, like, what if she stops being friends with me because I stop agreeing with all of the things that she has to say? Spoiler alert, we're not friends anymore, and I actually don't mind. Like, and it's because I've grown to a different level, and I've become okay with knowing that I am a different person to what she perceives me to be, and that's so okay.
I love that you brought this up, because I literally had this conversation with a friend earlier this morning, how over the years they've changed and so have their partner, and they've noticed that certain people in their lives are not adjusting to the new versions of themselves. And when I'm saying the new version, they're more uplifting, they're very driven, they're very career oriented, where the old selves of them, their friends, are used to, them just being like relaxed and easygoing and people pleasing, where now they have a backbone, they stand up for what they believe, they'll speak their mind. And, again, certain people don't like that because they're used to the old version of yourself. And this is where it becomes really challenging. This is something that I found really challenging over many, many years during my personal development and, of my growth in my career and stuff. People are going to come in and out of your life, but the ones who actually are born to stay will stay with you during those heavy days of growth. And you know what? I still to this day, I have probably about 2 or 3 girlfriends that I've known for more than a decade now. And each one of us have gone through a various growth spurt, whether it's through career, whether it's through relationships, whatever it is, we've been able to comfort, but also challenge one another and see that growth where, as you said, like certain people can't, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't go with the change because they're wanting you to stay where they are sort of, recognize you as.
Absolutely. They can't hold you in that change in the person that you're becoming, because it's making them question not only who you are and the role that you play in their lives, but also who they are. And that's where it's really important to be able to see the difference between, do they not like the person that I'm becoming, or do they not like it because I'm changing and that's challenging who they believe themselves to be?
Yeah. Well, we know the answer to that. We know it's them not being happy within themselves, and they're feeling challenged right now because we're actually taking the leap of faith and going, let's fucking do this, instead of sitting back and going, oh, I'm too scared, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Like, people will always always, if they are seeing you grow and they're bringing up their negative emotions about it, they're feeling intimidated or they're feeling triggered or they don't like the person that you're becoming. Like, do they not like the person that they're becoming, or is it making them uncomfortable because they're not growing themselves?
Well, we know the answer to that, and I hope a lot of our listeners are realizing that, that they need to feel empowered within themselves to make that change. It's not up to anyone else, but it's just up to ourselves. And like you said before, it's just going, instead of going, what if this goes wrong? It's changing that mindset and going, what if it goes right? Like, why not go for it?
Exactly. What if it goes right? What if you can have all of the things? What if you can achieve all of the things?
Yeah.
Because I
100%.
promise to anyone listening to this, if you're asking yourself, what if, you probably can.
Yeah, exactly right. Grace, wow, what a fucking empowering conversation we had today. Seriously.
I love how that just went on just the biggest roller coaster of every topic possible, honestly.
Welcome to my life.
No, honestly, I love being able to share my perspective with other people, with the world, and hope that maybe just one little thing that I had to say can help change the game for some people.
100%. I know a lot of people are going to be going back and listening to this, or even referring to their friends to listen to it, because again, everyone needs to change some form of aspect in their life for the better. So if it's like you facing your fears around the gym, or going on dates or skydiving, like who knows, just
Yeah.
start evaluating what's serving you and what isn't. But Grace, before we go, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Grace Macleod, Macleod with 2 Ds. And that is literally the only place that I frequent.
Beautiful. Well, girls, if you want to get in touch with Grace, hit her up in the DMs. Otherwise, please screenshot today's episode, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag Grace, tag myself, and then, reach out to us. Tell us what you thought about today's podcast. The more feedback we get, the more better idea we have of what type of topics you guys want to listen to more.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation. I love everything that we spoke about. And yeah, thank you.